Good morning, friends. Today we enter the second lecture of biology, the fundamental unit of life. In yesterday's lecture, we saw how Robert Hooke studied the cell for the first time. Yes, he studied the Koch cell under a microscope, self-designed microscope, and he found small compartments which he called cells. Then the study of cells started, and the study of cell is known as cytology. Then Sheldon and Swan gave the cell theory, which points we discussed yesterday. We also saw what metabolic activities or life processes the cell undergoes, like nutrition, digestion, circulation, etc. Then we studied unicellular and multicellular organisms. We saw the size and shapes of different types of cells in the human body. So we are going to revise a little bit. Yesterday we saw this slide, the cells in the human body, different shape, different size, depending on what functions they perform. So today we'll go a little deeper and see the cell size. So cell size or the size of cell is a variable, means it changes depending upon the type of organism. Some are microscopic, means cannot be seen with the naked eyes. Their size may vary from 0.2 millimeter to 18 centimeter, means 18 centimeter you can see with your naked eyes without the help of a microscope, but 0.2 mm you need to have a microscope. Okay, then size of a typical cell in multicellular organism is from 20 to 30 millimeter. The largest cell is the ostrich egg, 15 centimeter diameter with a shell. So your scale is of 15 centimeter and 8 centimeter in diameter without the shell. So this is quite a big cell which you can see without a microscope. In the human body, the longest cell is the nerve cell, which is almost up to 1 meter. Yes. So from the hip bone to the toes, means at the bottom of the feet, the sole of the feet, the nerve cell is almost 1 meter. And in larger animals also, the nerve cell is very big in size. The human egg cell is 0.1 mm in diameter. So this is the different cell sizes. Yes, some cells are very small. You need a very powerful microscope to see it. And other cells can be even seen without help of microscope. So the size of the cell depends upon the type of organism, multicellular, unicellular, and also depending on the location and the function that the cell has to perform. Now yesterday we saw this slide, cellular components. A plant cell and an animal cell has basically got the same structure, but there are some differences between a plant and an animal cell. Okay, many structures are common between them, the cellular components are common, but some are basically very different. So let us see the differences. Animal cell have no cell wall. Plant cell have a cell wall. So you can see in this plant cell, this outermost coating is a cell wall. In the animal cell, there is only a single coating, that is a plasma membrane or cell membrane. There is no cell wall. In the plant, you can see there is a large vacuole. Now vacuole stores food products, some minerals, and especially water. Now why the plant cell stores water? Because you know the plant cannot move from one place to another. The plant is fixed at one place. Okay? Because the plant is fixed at one place, it has a vacuole to store the food, store water and other particles. Animal cell, animals can move from place to place. So they have small or no vacuole. If they have a vacuole, it is very small, either they don't have a vacuole. Now the cell wall of the plant cell, the cell wall, is made up of cellulose. and cellulose can absorb liquids. In the plant cell, there is no cellulose. Sorry, animal cell, there is no cellulose, so it cannot absorb more liquid. Now, animal cells have lysosomes. Lysosomes are also called suicidal bags of the cell, which we'll do in the future lectures, but they have got lysosomes, while the plant cell has no lysosome. Okay, and plant cell have chloroplast, chloroplast which contains a green pigment called chlorophyll, and the chlorophyll helps in photosynthesis, so plants can prepare their own food. In the animal cell, there is no chloroplast, no chlorophyll. Animals cannot prepare their own food. So this is the basic differences between a plant and animal cell. So again, the cell size differs according to the organism, according to the function that the cell has to do. So plant has got different types of cells. This is a general idea of a plant and animal cell. But we just saw that even in animals, say humans, all the different cells in the body have got different size based on their functions. This is just a general notion or a general idea of plant and animal cell. Now we go to the basic components of the cell. So the next part of the chapter is now basic components of the cell. So like we said, the basic components are an outer border called the plasma membrane. So both cells, plants and animal cell have a plasma membrane, the outer coating. But in the plant cell, along with the membrane, there is an outside, there is a cell wall. The cell wall is only there in what? In the plant cell. So you got a cell membrane in both the cells. You can see the cell membrane is a coating on the animal cell and on the inner side of the plant cell. But the cell wall is only in the plant cell. Then we have the nucleus, a big dense protoplasm. The nucleus is there in the plant cell also, sorry, animal cell, and also in the plant cell. And then you have cytoplasm, which is in both cells. This light blue colored jelly-like substance you can see, this jelly-like substance, light blue colored, in both the cells is the cytoplasm. And inside the cytoplasm are the various cell components. Now the cell component, the size of the cell, you can see the cells here, they basically are very small, which we need to see under a microscope. Now in the cytoplasm, it is a jelly-like substance, there are the cellular components and they are very small, so to see them clearly we need an electron microscope. So after the electron microscope, the cellular components were studied in great detail. Okay, so we'll take that information later on. Just now what you basically see, three things. Any cell has got an outer covering called the membrane, cell membrane. They have got a dense nucleus, a protoplasm called the nucleus, and between the walls of the nucleus and the membrane there is a jelly-like substance called the cytoplasm. So these are the three basic things that any cell will have. Either plant cell or animal cell, or any cell in the plant or animal body will have these three basic components: a membrane, a nucleus, and a cytoplasm. But additionally, in a plant cell there is a cell wall also. So first we'll go into detail now. Today we are going to study the plasma membrane, called the cell membrane, and the cell wall. So this lecture we saw the different size of the cells and the basic structure of the cells, the three basic components, and today we are going to study the plasma membrane. So what is the plasma membrane? It is the outermost covering of the shell, sorry, of the cell in the animal cell. The plant has got cell wall. Okay, so what does this cell do? It covers, or you can say protects the cell. It separates the contents of the cell from the external environment. Means, for example, we talked about amoeba yesterday. It's a unicellular organism living inside the water. Yes, amoeba is a unicellular organism living inside the water. So the cell membrane of the amoeba separates the amoeba from the water. So it's an animal living in water, but the outer membrane separates the contents inside the amoeba from the water outside. This membrane is found in both plant cell and animal cell, and it is a fully permeable membrane. The cell wall is there in only the plant cell. The cell wall is a fully permeable membrane, only the cell wall. What does a fully permeable membrane mean? It allows the movement of everything to go in and go out. Fully permeable. Permeable means it permits, allows any material to enter and leave the cell. But the plasma membrane, it allows or permits the entry and exit of only some materials, not all the materials. The plasma membrane is a living component of the cell. It decides whom to allow in and whom to not allow in. Means food can go in, it will allow food to go in, but harmful substances it will not allow. So it prevents the movement of other materials and only allows some materials to move in and out. So it is a selectively permeable membrane. You saw the cell wall was a fully permeable membrane, allows anything to enter and anything to go out. But the plasma membrane is what? Is a selective permeable membrane. So substances like carbon dioxide, oxygen, which goes in and out of the cell, yes, it decides. It allows oxygen to go inside the cell, it allows the carbon dioxide to go out. By which process? By diffusion. So there are two processes which occurs in the cell, diffusion and osmosis. We'll see them in some detail shortly. Okay, so it is a movement of particles from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So if in the cell the CO2 is high, then it will move out. If in the cell oxygen is high, then it will move out. So what is more inside the cell will come out, what is more outside will move in. So that is diffusion or osmosis. Let us see in detail what happens. Okay, before that, let us see the points now. So have you understood what is the plasma membrane? The plasma membrane is the outer covering of the cell. Now let us see the points regarding the plasma membrane. Cell membrane is also called plasma membrane, or sometimes it is also called plasma lemma. It is the limiting boundary of the cell. We already did it. It is the outer covering of the cell which separates the cytoplasm from the surroundings. What was the cytoplasm? The jelly-like liquid in which the cellular components are there. So that liquid is separated from the environment with the help of the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is there in both plant as well as animal cells. Okay, but in the case of plant cells, there is outside a cell wall also, which is a fully permeable membrane. Now this plasma membrane is made up of proteins and lipids. It is called lipoproteins. The proteins are sandwiched between two layers of lipids. If you want, I will in the next lecture show the structure of the plasma membrane. They are called lipoproteins. Between two layers of lipids, fats, there are proteins. And this is the living membrane I told you, selectively permeable. It will decide. It has got the decision power to decide which material will enter or exit the cell. Everything cannot move on its own. The plasma membrane decides which materials will move in and out of the cell. So the plasma membrane is selectively permeable, allows or permits the entry exit of only of some materials. Two scientists, Singer and Nicholson, gave the model called the fluid mosaic model of the plasma membrane. It is in a quasi-fluid state, means a state which constantly changes, and it is 75 angstrom thick. Now what is angstrom? It is a size 10 raised to minus 10 meter, means if you divide 1 by how much, 1 followed by 10 zeros, you get 1 angstrom. So it is very small. To observe the plasma membrane very clearly, you have to use an electron microscope. It is a very good microscope, and it allows you to see all the components in proper detail. That can be done later on. The plasma membrane is flexible. So flexible, it can be folded, broken and reunited. So it is flexible. It can fold. Okay? So we saw the amoeba is a unicellular organism. So how does it take in its food? The amoeba is shapeless, it can change its shape. So it has got 2 feet called pseudopodia. So the flexibility of the cell helps to engulf the food and other material from internal environment. Such process is called endocytosis. Means when the cell is changing the shape to take some material inside. So amoeba acquires its food through such a process. This process is called endocytosis. Right? So this is the basic idea about the plasma membrane. In a unicellular organism like amoeba, there is no definite shape. It can change its shape to engulf the food, yes, and even for movement. It is called pseudopodia. Pseudopodia means false feet. The arms come out only when it wants to move or wants to engulf food. Now the functions of the plasma membrane. The first basic function, it gives a shape to the cell. So basically it gives a shape, but I told you, like in the case of amoeba, the amoeba can change the shape. But for the other cells, the plasma membrane gives a shape to the cell. The second function regulates the movement of molecules or particles in and out of the cell because it is a selectively permeable membrane. And third, it helps in maintaining the distinct composition of the cell. Means cytoplasm is separated from the environment with the help of the plasma membrane. Now we talked about the movement of particles going in and out of the cell through the plasma membrane by two processes, diffusion and osmosis. So now we'll see what is diffusion and what is osmosis. So we learned that the plasma membrane is a selectively permeable membrane which allows or permits the entry and exit only of some molecules. Okay, and this is done by two processes called diffusion and osmosis. So first let us see what is diffusion. Diffusion is the movement of solutes or ions. Means what is solutes mean? Sugar, salt. Yes, when you have this when we dissolve sugar in water, we get a sugar solution. What do we get? Understand clearly. What is a solution? When we take sugar and dissolve it in the water, we get a sugar solution. The sugar is called the solute and the water is called the solvent. So there is solute and solvent. Now diffusion allows solutes. Solutes are generally large particles or large molecules. So even these large molecules can go from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration, and this process is called diffusion. So diffusion is generally the movement of particles from the region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So in the amoeba, when it wants to take oxygen, if inside the amoeba the oxygen is less and in the water outside the oxygen is more, then the oxygen particles will move inside the amoeba by the process of diffusion. The amoeba will use the oxygen to oxidize the food and release energy. So inside the carbon dioxide is increased. Now because carbon dioxide is more inside, it will move outside by the process of diffusion. So diffusion is the process or the movement of particles from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. And it does not require energy, it can just move. So it is called passive transport. So whenever the components of the cell come in contact with environment, yes, then the exchange will take place from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. It does not require energy, so it is called passive transport. If it requires energy, it would be called active transport, but diffusion is passive, does not require energy. Now let us see what is osmosis. Osmosis is the movement of solvent or water. I told you just now solute and solvent. When two things are mixed, then there is a solute. The solid particles are called solute, the liquid particles are called solvent. So in osmosis, the solvent of water moves from higher concentration to lower concentration. So in diffusion, along with water, even the solutes, carbon dioxide, oxygen, everything can move. Here only water can move through a semi-permeable membrane. Diffusion occurs in a fully permeable membrane. Osmosis occurs in a semi-permeable membrane. Okay, so osmosis can be called diffusion of solvents. Okay, so osmosis is also a type of diffusion only, but it allows only solvents like the liquid particles, liquid molecules. While in diffusion, even the solid particles can move depending on their size. So it moves from a region of higher concentration to region of lower concentration. So when the water or the solvent moves into the cell, it is called endosmosis. And if it moves outside the cell, it is called exosmosis. Means if it is going in, it is called endosmosis. If it is going out, it is called exosmosis. So now there is a picture here and we try to understand the difference between diffusion and osmosis. You can see here, this is diffusion. Here the concentration is high. Concentration is high. So particles are directly diffusing into the region of lower concentration. What happens is, in diffusion, the solvent or the solid particles start moving. They start moving till the concentration on both sides becomes equal. And there is no membrane involved here. No semi-permeable membrane is involved, because in diffusion it can just move anywhere from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. An example, if you put a drop of ink in water, you can take a transparent glass full of water and drop a drop of ink in it. Now the ink has got ink particles at a higher concentration, so slowly it will start to move around, going from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration, so the water will turn blue. Now you see, when you put the ink drop in water, the ink drop was at one place only, but it doesn't stay at one place. The particles of ink start to spread out because it is moving from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. In osmosis, the solute particles do not move. Only the solvent particle moves. This movement happens only through a semi-permeable membrane. So, if you take a semi-permeable membrane like a filter paper or tissue paper, yes, you can try it out. You have to take a tissue paper or filter paper, which is a semi-permeable membrane, take sugar solution, fill in it and put into water. Then the water from outside will go inside and make the paper bigger. So what is the similarity between both of them? The similarity is that it equalizes the concentration in the two solutions. Generally, we have got two solutions with different concentrations. So the movement equalizes them. So how it is useful in a cell? Say the amoeba is living in water, like I told you. So in the cell the oxygen is less and in the water the oxygen is more. So automatically oxygen will move inside by diffusion. Inside the cell the carbon dioxide is high and oxygen is low. So automatically the oxygen will move, carbon dioxide will move outside. This is diffusion. The particles just move through, yes, whenever they find a difference in concentration they will just move through. But in osmosis that does not happen. In osmosis, when there is a difference of concentration, only the water particles or solvent particles will move. So if the solution is concentrated inside, water will go inside. If the concentration is outside, water will come outside. Okay? So we'll see one more slide and you'll understand it better. Now we have put the cell in a solution. Say sugar solution or salt solution, whatever. Sugar or salt. Now we'll see the three different types of solutions. Now the cell inside and out, inside the cell and outside the cell. Okay, so first we see what is the isotonic solution. Here we have seen this is the isotonic solution. So in isotonic solution, the concentration outside is equal to the concentration inside. So the concentration outside and the concentration inside cytoplasm is the same. So the amount which water which goes in, the same amount of water comes out, and there is no change in the shape of the cell. So isotonic, the concentration is the same. So how much goes in, the same amount comes out, and there is no change in the shape of the cell. In a hypertonic solution, hypertonic. What does hypertonic mean? The concentration of the solution outside is more. Now what does high concentration of solution mean? Let me explain in other words. Okay, let us see. If I take 3 glasses of water, in one glass I put 5 spoon sugar, in one I put 2 spoon sugar, in one I put 1 spoon sugar. Then I stir it. Which will be more sweeter? Yes, the one with the 5 spoons of sugar will be sweeter, and 1 spoon sugar will not be so sweet. Now why these 5 spoons are sweeter? Because the sugar particles are more in that solution. So it is something like that. This is hypertonic, means the solution, sugar solution has more sugar outside, and inside the cell the sugar is less. So understand, in osmosis the sugar doesn't go in or out, only the water particles are moving, water particles. Now because the sugar was more outside and water was less outside, so the water from inside the cell started to move outside. So you can see here, this is not diffusion. If this was diffusion, what would happen? If it was diffusion, then outside the sugar particles are more, so sugar would go in. But in osmosis, the solutes do not move. The sugar cannot go in, the sugar cannot come out, only the water particles can move. So outside the sugar is more, means the water is less, and inside the water is more. So water moves out. Now when the water moves outside the cell becomes plasmolized. The cell loses water, means the cell shrinks, becomes smaller. And same now we have got the hypotonic. Hypotonic means inside the sugar is more, the solution of sugar is more inside and water is less inside. So because the sugar is more and water is less, through the semi-permeable membrane, water is moving inside. So water moves inside the cell and the cell is getting lot of water. So the cell will swell up and burst. So when kept in a hypotonic solution for a long time, the cell will take in a lot of water and it will burst. So depending in which solution the cell is put, yes, the amount of water moving in or moving out will depend upon it. So if the concentration in and out is same, it is called isotonic. So the water going in and coming out remains the same, no change in the shape of the cell. When you put in hypertonic solution, the concentration is more outside. So outside the concentration is more, water is less. So water comes out, the cell shrinks or is plasmolized. And hypotonic, outside, what happens outside? The concentration is less, water is more. So water starts to go in and the cell will swell up and the cell will burst. Okay, cell will burst. So what do animal cells can do? When they are in a hypertonic solution and they get enough water, they will move outside, so it does not burst. But what about the plant cell? Plant cell has got its own mechanism. In plant cell, The plant cell wall is made up of cellulose. Yes, cellulose is a complex substance which gives strength to the plants. So plant cell loses water through osmosis. Means if the environment is very dry, say the summer season. In the summer season, the outside environment is very dry. So water from inside the plant starts to move out. So the cells will shrink and the leaves will wilt. Notice the wilting of leaves when the leaves become down. It is called wilting. Now why the leaves wilt in summer season? Because there was water inside, but outside the water was less. So the water particles in the form of vapor started to go out. Then the plant cell lost the water and the leaves wilt. So this phenomenon is called plasmolysis. Okay? But in the certain times in the rainy season, the plants will take the water through the roots, right? Absorb water. The cell will take the water and the cell might swell up, but it will not burst. Why it will not burst? Because there is a cell wall which will not let the cell membrane expand more than it can. The cell wall protects it. So now what are the functions of the cell wall? It provides a definite shape to the cell. It gives strength to the cell. It is fully permeable, allows everything to go in and come out, and it has got repair and regeneration. You can see if you cut a tree from somewhere, yes, there is a cut in the tree, then slowly that cut will fill up because the cell wall will fill it up. Now cell walls, I told you, they permit the cells of plant or fungi or bacteria to withstand dilute hypotonic external media. Now what is hypotonic mean? Outside the concentration of water is more. So water starts to move in. So water moves in by osmosis. The cell will start to swell and it will build pressure against the cell wall. So this plasma membrane is now becoming big and it is now creating pressure on the cell wall. But the cell wall has got strength. It has strength, a definite shape. So it can create an equal pressure on the cell. And because of that strong cell, the cell can withstand much greater changes in the surrounding medium than animal cells. So animal cells cannot maintain this pressure, but the plant cells can. So I can give an example, but we should not try it. If you take a fish from seawater and put it into fresh water. Now a fish living in the seawater, yes, now what happens in the sea? In the sea there is a lot of salt. So it is which type of solution? Higher concentration of salt on the outside. Yes, it's like a hypertonic solution. Now the fish living in the sea has adjusted the liquids inside the body with the salt solution outside. Now when you take the fish from the sea and put it into fresh water, then the salts inside the body of the fish are more and the water is less. So what will happen? The fresh water molecules will start going into the fish will swell up and die. And if you take a river fish, freshwater fish, and put it into the sea, the opposite happens. The river water has got less salts, so the fish has got less salts in the body to balance with the water. When you take the fish and throw it into the sea, now what happens? The sea has got more salt and less water, and inside the fish there is more water. So when a freshwater fish is thrown into the sea, then the water from inside the fish starts to move out into the sea and the fish will shrink and die. So fishes of fresh water are different and fishes living in sea water are different. They have got different types of solutions inside the body to maintain the flow of water. So a fish living in a river cannot live in the sea. A fish living in the sea cannot live in fresh water. So today we have done the size of the cell and studied the basic components. We saw the basic components is plasma membrane, in plant cell a cell wall, nucleus and cytoplasm, but today we only did the cell wall and the cell membrane. Nucleus and cytoplasm we will continue tomorrow. I end here. Thank you.